Happy Friday, ambitious readers. Welcome back to another edition of Reading Ambitiously, where every single week we unpack the most powerful ideas that are shaping the world. You can now talk directly to and brainstorm with those ideas with the Ambitious OS, which is your personal chief AI officer. And it is now available at ambitiousos.com, where you can request access to join about 40 of your fellow Reading Ambitiously subscribers who are using this powerful AI to have a conversation with over 2 years worth of all the research that we've done in this newsletter and all of the content in the newsletter, including every single tweet, chart, and of course, all of our big ideas. Make sure you check out ambitiousos.com to request access today. And on the way there, we've got a really big idea in store for you this week. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's big idea. Trust is the rate limiter on risk transfer. Now, the simplest definition of business is the exchange of risk. That's it. And for that exchange to take place, the most essential ingredient is trust. Now, right now, the world is adopting AI at a speed we rarely see in technology, and I am very optimistic that this is a new operating system. At the same time, human nature has its own operating system, and it is much older than markets or modern institutions. And one of its core jobs is deciding when reliance is safe, when it's okay to trust someone or a group. And with AI, we can rapidly go from ideas to artifacts. But business is not the exchange of those artifacts, it is the transference of risk. When a buyer chooses you, they're not only buying your product, they're choosing who they can rely on when the stakes are real. And maybe that sounds obvious or trite, or you're saying to yourself, well, duh, Jack. But I think it is easier said than done. Because right now there's an explosion of new companies, and every single day the headlines are about how fast they are growing. And the speed is impressive. And the velocity, make no mistake, is one of the most important parts of starting a new business. But the question I have been wondering is whether or not trust can be established at the same pace, especially when the risk that's being handed over is meaningful and thus priced accordingly. Now, I have worked for two companies in my career, IBM and Ridgeline, and both were shaped deeply by founders who seemed to really understand this, Thomas Watson and Dave Duffield. Now, IBM is only one of a handful of companies in the Century Club at 115 years old this year. And Dave is one of only a small number of founders to have built multiple companies that both went public and entered the S&P 500. Among many things, I think both of these individuals understood that technology is important. It was at the very DNA of the companies they started, but it is rarely the deciding factor on its own. I want you to imagine for a second, if you gave the 1984 peak era IBM sales team today's AI products, don't you think they would just crush their quotas? I think they would sign a lot of customers up. And perhaps it would be because these are amazing products. But I think the deeper advantage would not have been the AI tools. I think it would have been the culture of that team and the way that their customers learned to rely on that team over time and the way that the IBM sales team made those customers feel. And lately, I keep thinking about that point as the X factor in company building. Now, my first year on the job at IBM was spent in training programs that were specifically designed to teach employees on how to act like an IBMer. And at my very first meeting I ever attended with Dave Duffield about what would become Ridgeline, core values were the first order of business on his agenda. I think Buffett and Munger seem to really understand this too, because if you read their letters to shareholders carefully, they are always talking about the people as a foundational component to their investment thesis. So what can we do about this? The takeaway for me is not to slow down, but rather it is to build the trust engine as deliberately as you are building the product. Put the same amount of care into culture and people as you put into the shiny objects, especially right now, with all of us trying to figure out how to use this amazing new technology that is artificial intelligence. And when I say trust engine, I mean a set of core values, practices, and cultural principles that make you consistently reliable. Because the decision to hand over risk will not be made on a flashy demo or a feature comparison. It will be made on your buyer's pattern recognition about who has shown up consistently, who has a track record of doing what they said they would do, who understands the domain beyond what's on the slide. That is what I mean by trust turning into something personal, almost emotional inside of your business relationships. Because right now, AI makes it a better time than ever to launch a new product or start a new company. And you should definitely do those things because you can build faster, you can iterate faster, you can learn faster. But the thing is, you're really asking a customer for is to still do the same thing you've always been asking them for. It's to trust you enough to underwrite the risk with you. And that is why trust is the rate limiter on the transference of that risk. You can accelerate the cycles. You can generate evidence sooner. There is no doubt about that. But reliance still takes time and it still gets earned the old fashioned way by doing what you say you're going to do, which is my personal favorite definition of the word trust. I hope you have an awesome weekend, ambitious readers, and that you check out ambitiousos.com and you request access to your personal chief AI officer today. Take care of each other.